Okay. All right. Hey, everyone. I want to take you guys on a thought experiment. Imagine you were measuring how fast it would take someone to empty out one of those toy claw machines. Yeah. There would be at least two variables that would determine the rate at which you would empty out the rate at which you would empty out the claw machine. All right. Especially if you you weren't just emptying them out willy-nilly or emptying them out randomly. If you had to empty out maybe a specific type out of a field of stuffed animals or toys, stuffed animals and or toys, how would you organize it? Scratch that. What variables would slow down or speed up the rate to which you're emptying out that specific toy? Well, the first variable would be spatial, what's called spatial locality, which means are the toys that you need well arranged, right? Are they sequentially arranged? Let's say you're looking for all red stuffed animals, right? Are they well put together in rows and columns? Or are they like random? Like you would take one stuffed animal, then you'd have to move two steps or two strides. Oh my days, that will make sense later. You need to take you need to take two steps or two strides to go to the next red stuffed animal. Then you need to take three steps or three strides to pick up the next one, right? Basically sorting through this sea of unorganized stuffed animals. And the question is, would it be faster if it was sequentially organized? If what you needed was sequentially organized, or if it was just random? What would result in a higher stuffed animal per second rate? Obviously, if it was sequential, that's one variable. Second variable is how big each stuffed animal is. Obviously, the smaller the stuffed animal, the okay, this can actually get counterintuitive. So we're gonna need to make some assumptions. If you've ever played that claw game, you'd realize that sometimes when the stuffed animals are too small, the claw can't pick them up properly, right? So sometimes it's better to have them a bit bigger, right? So we're ignoring that. We're assuming the bigger the stuffed animal, the harder it is to pick up. Because that's how it is sometimes. Typically, bigger things are heavier, so maybe the claw would take a longer time to pull it up, or, the surface area is too large for the claw to grasp, right? Um, and then in that case, the smaller stuffed animals would be easier. Obviously, in reality, sometimes if they're too small, you can't grab them. But we are ignoring that, okay? Because what I'm linking this to, it's not really a physical object, so the size doesn't matter. Well, it is physical, but it's not the size. The smaller the size, the easier it is to pick up. Ignore the fact that it'll fall right through the claw. Imagine the claw can grasp as small as it is, nothing falls out. So in that case, the bigger one, based on the fact that the weight might hold it down, it would take a longer time to get the big ones out than the small ones. So in that case, the rate at which the at which you can empty out the stuffed animals you want is actually inversely proportional to the size of each stuffed animal. In fact, both variables are inversely proportional to the rate. So how far apart each one is inversely proportional to how fast you can empty them out. And how big each one is also inversely proportional to um how fast you can get them out, right? So put the rate on the y-axis. Just imagine a graph. Put the rate on the y-axis, and on the x-axis you can put the distance between each stuffed animal, and on the z-axis you can put the size of each um the size of each what? The size of each on the z-axis you can put the size of each stuffed animal. Now imagine the graph. The highest point on that graph, which would correspond with the fastest rate, would be when the distance between each of them are the smallest and the size of each are the smallest. So you can then see that the graph would say this is the graph. The graph would start somewhere here, and then it will kind of open up downwards, right? It will have a peak, then it will come downwards. So that as the on one axis, simultaneously um as the what's it called? As the distance between them, as the distance between each stuffed animal is increasing, the the rate at which you can take them out is actually reducing. Simultaneously, simultaneously, as the size of each stuffed animal is also increasing, the rate at which you can get them out decreases as well. Right? Now, replace the stuffed animal with memory, with bytes. And you have one of the famous graphs in computer memory, right? The rate at which the CPU can read the memory, you just plot that on the y-axis. I just use stuffed animals so that it won't be too abstract. You can relate to it easier. But yeah, it's the same thing. If each memory location is too far apart, it'll take longer and the rate will drop. If each piece of code has insane memory, a high, it's just looping through a high memory. It just has a high memory count, has a high number of bytes to run the code, to store the code, etc. Just the retrieval and the whole processing speed in general will be slower. They call it the read throughput. It's just basically how it's just a rate, how fast, right? Yeah. And it just forms the same graph, like a tip and then lower. I'll try to have visuals on this because it's kind of, ugh, you know?